Welcome to Trento Vision, where bad ideas get pulverized and the truth will set you free. Trento Vision is hosted by Tom Trento. Tom can be reached at 561-319-5533 or Tom at trentovision.tv. Listen and watch every weekday from 3 to 6 p.m. on AM 1470 WNN and trentovision.tv. Now, let's get a peek at Tom's view of the world. Here's Tom Trento.
Okay, we are back here on the eve of Armageddon.
It's an awfully nice day for an Armageddon.
Yes, it is. I have so many people, not just Christian people.
Yeah.
I mean, in the evangelical world, the concept of the end times is, for some people, it's a life study.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to Bible school and seminary and all that stuff. And some people just specialize in that. They try to put all the pieces together, put it over a kind of a global template, and there's prophecies in the Bible, and basically say, here it is the end of the world, as we know it. Well, in the past year, I've had many Jewish friends come up to me and say, what do you think? Is this the end of the times, And I said, all my years as a Christian apologist, somebody that does work in the area of Christian theology, but I was never big on eschatology. I never focused a lot of time or effort on that. But I do say this now. All my years as a person being involved in leadership in the evangelical community, I have never, ever, ever seen the synchronization of the three religions, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and their three eschatological systems so aligning. If you put them on transparencies for overhead projectors, which we don't have anymore, nobody knows what that is. Okay. If you put them on that and lay them over the geopolitical events of the day, you go, oh my God, what's going on here? This is bizarre. So I don't know when the world's going to end, but I do know that there are some strange things going on, and the center of all of this is Jerusalem. And even more specifically, it's that golden dome sitting over the Jewish temple and the battle for that sacred space. Whose space is that? Our previous analyst from Israel, Batsi, told us about one of the doctrines of Islam, sacred space, where when they capture or occupy a country from Allah's point of view, and you know what, Joe and CJ and Mike and Mark and everybody, the problem that we're having in the West and in the United States in particular, we're fighting our enemy from our mindset, the constructs that are in our mind as to what we project on the enemy as to how they think, as opposed to understanding the doctrine, as Andy Boston does, from the enemy's perspective. So when they talk about a two-state solution, they have a doctrine that supersedes the paper that men make. The doctrine is, it's our land. It's that simple. You Jews have to go away. That's why we're dealing with this show for this week, dealing with Israel. That's why we think there's going to be a rumbling in the streets of the United States of America like there was 4 years ago on December 30th, 2008. We had cast lead back then, and we saw the Arab street erupt worldwide, and we saw it erupt here in Fort Lauderdale.
Yes.
And that guy and myself videotaped something that went around the world. Jews go back to the ovens. 2 days ago, the jihadis had a redo of that event, and they were on the same corner, Broward, actually across the street, Broward Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale, and 3rd Avenue. And we dispatched two of our intrepid United West Trento Vision field operatives that are in this room right now. And Mark, tell us what you found.
Well, what was interesting is that the people that were there, there were their mentality is this is their land. Anybody who tries to take it away from them or even counter to them are evil or apartheid or you know that whole go back to the Evans mentality was still prevalent. We were embedded inside the crowd, and we can just show you the video to give you an idea of what's going on. And
And for
yeah.
the listeners, they can hear everything, right?
Yeah, you can hear everything. So here, we'll just play the video.
Okay, here we go. This was taped 2
Yes.
days ago, Saturday, the 17th of November in Fort Lauderdale. Here we go. A Hamas demonstration.
From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free.
These are cars going by with Palestinian flags flying in the air.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't want the racist war. We don't want the racist war. 5, 6, 7, 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Israel is an apartheid state.
The Warsaw Ghetto was an abomination, yet they talked about collective punishment there where they killed Jews that were non-fighters in the Warsaw Ghetto, and yet that is the same thing that the Zionist state of Israel, the criminal rogue state of Israel, does to the people in Gaza and the West Bank. It's an abomination. There's only one way out of this, and that is really to end capitalism and to bring about a free Palestine and eventually no states with everybody living at peace with one another around the world.
Amen, brother.
Viva Palestina! From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free.
You have them over there chanting, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," which is a direct quote from Hassan al-Banna, Muslim Brotherhood founder, meaning they want to drive all Jews into the sea, and that seems to be the prevalent message. They had chants and all other types of chants like that. What's your comment on that?
Well, 5 years ago, 300 of them were here screaming Jews into the ovens. I don't know, is this an improvement?
Go back to the oven! You need a big oven! That's what you need!
It's okay for them to throw out 20,000 missiles against the Israelis, and we don't care how many kids are killed, and we don't care who gets killed. And as soon as Israel decides to defend itself, finally, and go after them, the rest of the world kisses their behind and tries to save them again. I'm only praying that Bibi finally wakes up and finishes the job. How many times do we have to go through this crap?
Now, what's interesting is you look at the Hamas covenant, and it says Israel will exist and continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it, just as it obliterated others before it. And that's a direct quote from Hassan al-Banna. And this is their ethos. This is their core belief: is that Israel does not exist. We heard that reiterated last night with Louis Gohmert when he actually sat down. Louis Gohmert, a highly respected congressman from Texas, who Joe Sabag, introduced last night, and he reiterated the same thing: is that they do not even understand that Israel has a right to exist as a state. They're a Jewish state.
Yeah, I want to get a clarification on it. Let me tell everybody what we're doing here. You're at TrentoVision.tv. If you're looking at this, you probably would figure that out if you're looking at it. But if you're driving in your automobile at 4:14 in a beautiful Florida afternoon, we're at 76 degrees in our studio, but our weather lady will tell us what it is outside. You're listening on WNN 1470 AM.
Balmy 72 degrees in beautiful downtown Boca Raton.
It's cooler
The
outside
sun
than in
is
here.
Shining.
And the jihadis are out there just having a good old time today.
Well,
And Joe and I were saying earlier when we came up from downstairs, if this is the end of the world, we're sure having some good weather for it.
Yeah, 72 degrees here in Florida for all of you snowbirds listening. It's a beautiful day, but the days are going to get difficult because 4 years ago we saw the Arab Street erupt in America here, and then 2 days ago you saw this. We just showed the video. What we're doing, Trento Vision is a national security radio, and we simulcast on the internet TV. We're going to bring you the he's supporting Israel right now. You're so wrong, it isn't funny. I want to get into that's a very serious discussion in this hour and the next hour. He's putting out platitudes to tickle the ears of the Jewish people that voted for him, the Christian people that voted for him. See, he's supporting Israel. He's not supporting Israel. We'll explain that. But we're bringing in experts from different parts of the world, from Israel, different parts of the state, to give our listeners and viewers a very first-person, personal experience as to what's going on over there. And if you want to get involved, if you have the Palestinian side, 888-565-1470, give us a call. We'll be glad to discuss it. I want to get into that, too. I mean, they're human beings. They're human beings, and they have every right in the world to live a free and safe existence. And why are the Israelis blowing the hell out of them? You know, we want to discuss that. But do we have Jan Suzanne on the line?
Not yet. What was interesting is.
Do we have a problem, or
Yeah, we're having a problem.
Okay. I got a number we can call her.
What was interesting was that the one man who was interviewed in the suit and tie there, his solution. How does one get to this idea? His solution is, we need to get rid of capitalism.
You know who he is? Occupy Fort Lauderdale was invited to join this rally, and
Right.
that's who he's representing. Occupy Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. This is what is referred to by, I think Caroline Glick actually coined the phrase, the Red-Green Alliance. It's the anti-Semitic Islamic perspective really joining hands with that far-left European stylized anti-Semitic perspective. And, for as much as they're incompatible, because, frankly,
Right.
there's plenty that they should hate about each other, they're willing to overlook all of that and come together on this, unifying goal of, ganging up on the Jews and treating Israel as the Jew amongst nations. So.
That's right, because if it's the one thing that everybody in the whole world can agree on, it's the hatred of Jews and the eradication of Jews.
Yeah, everybody
And
except us.
Well, and for the record, if you're watching the show, we have the Jews on that side of the table right now, Joe and CJ. We have a Christian on this side of the
But
table.
That's not by design.
That's not by design.
Yeah.
It's by comfort.
Geographical planning of the studio.
The Christian likes to look out the window.
And we have the Unitarian as a disembodied voice.
As a disembodied voice. And we have the invisible mic over here. But we also have Jan Suzanne with us.
Yes, we do.
Hi, Jan Suzanne is a friend of ours. And you are, hi, Jan Suzanne. Welcome to Trento Vision with Tom and CJ and Joe and Mike and Mark and everybody else. How are you?
Thank you so very much. I'm really well, thanks.
And you are coming to us from where right now? Don't give us your address, just the city.
No. I am coming to you from the center of Tel Aviv.
Okay. And you and I met about a year or so ago in New Jersey, wasn't it?
Yep,
I was speaking
at a tea party.
at a tea party. So, what are you? You're a Jewish person from. It sounds like, having grown up in New Jersey, sounds like you have one of them foreign accents coming out of New York.
You got it. I'm from Brooklyn.
Okay, I thought so. What is a good Brooklyn girl like you doing in Tel Aviv?
Well, this Jewish girl from Brooklyn made her way into Manhattan and then made her way into Westchester, married a fabulous guy who, for all these years we've been together, has loved Israel, and we've spent years talking about loving Israel. The time came when we lost our business a few years ago and made plans to decide where we wanted to retire and started to investigate. We've spent many times here in Israel. My husband spent a few months there last year. We've spent time together here. This is a remarkable place, Tom, and this is a place we're planning on spending some time to see if it will be our final place to live. That's why we're here.
Wow. And what has life been like I've been there as a not a tourist, but on a what did we go on? We went on a mission basically, but as someone that's moving there, looking to maybe put your roots down and be buried there eventually, that's a place. What is it like? What have you learned about Israel? What do you know now that you didn't know when you were just a tourist?
Living in Israel has a feeling of, I guess it's almost like no other place in the world. The people here have a lustful life that every minute, every day is marvelous. And they go about living it the best they can, and it rubs off on you. It rubs off. The biblicalness of the space, you feel like your roots are here. You feel history every day, and it's an exciting place. In the midst of the sirens blasting, people go to bomb shelters or they sit outside. But when the sirens are over, they just go out about their business. It's remarkable, Tom.
Now, you, for many years, you've been studying the doctrine of Islamic jihad and the Islamic desire for conquest and establishment of Sharia law, all of that. You started a blog, a conservative blog, a couple of years ago, didn't you?
I never did put together my own blog, Tom. I've kept a very low profile. What I've done is I've written and spread the word a little bit, and I found over the past 4 or 5 years, being a member of the Republican Jewish Coalition, being with the Heritage Foundation, starting to talk to, going to rallies. I got involved with Before It's News, with the American Thinker, and my work is being networked. And I'm learning as the days go by that my voice is being heard in places that surprise me, actually. I'm passionate about what I do. And while I'm here in Israel, we're living our lives, we're writing, we're going about our business, and maybe we'll make a difference. But if nothing else, we're living a wonderful life here.
All right, well, what we're going to do for a few minutes here, I'm going to tell folks if they want to speak with you or with us, 888-565-1470. Jan Suzanne Skyping in from Israel, where it's pretty late at night. It's 11:23, 7-hour difference over there. And you have been a conservative activist in the United States. You and your husband decided to check out Israel as a place where you possibly want to live. And a few folks here have questions for you in the studio. When did you actually go over to the last time you left the States to stay in Israel for a while?
Well, my husband and I sold our home on the 25th of October and emptied it completely out. We flew out 2 hours before Newark Airport shut down for Sandy, and we arrived on Monday the 29th of this year.
So you just got there and all hell is breaking loose in Israel.
We are here a little over 2 weeks.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And it's marvelous. It's more than we expected it to be, and we wouldn't want to be anywhere else. This is where we belong.
Even with a war going on?
Especially with a war going on.
Okay, well, I'm going to let these guys ask the questions they have.
Well, Jan, one of the very first things I noticed when
just tell her who you are. So
this is Mark Campbell, the disembodied voice. and we noticed one of the things I noticed was especially in Tel Aviv, was, people just seem to ignore everything else that's going on around them. Is that still prevalent that you see right now, even with bombs coming into Tel Aviv and even into Jerusalem?
What I witness, all right, is that there's a little heightened concern here, for sure. There is a heightened concern. I think people on Thursday, when the first sirens went off, we were shocked. It was shocking. And I was in a taxi cab with my husband, All I can say is after the sirens stopped, everything went back to normal. The same thing the next day and the next day. People just go about their business. And I'll share with you the reason why I believe so. It was like 9/11 in New York City. If you let your life change, then the terrorists have won. And Israeli people will not allow that to happen. And I believe in that from my heart, that you just can't let terrorists stop your life. And that's how the Israelis are living here. In spite of it, they may have in the back of their minds, when's that next Iron Dome going to pop a rocket? They're still going to go on. We go to the supermarkets, they're all filled. The centers are filled, the shopping markets are filled, the cafes are filled, except on the weekend when it's the holiday. It is a busy, bustling place, and people just go on with their lives. It's amazing.
Well, here's the danger in that, though, is if that's your mentality, just to, okay, we only have to be worried about it when it happens, then everything's okay when it's not happening. And that's the fear I have, is like, okay, they're not launching rockets today, so everything's fine today. And which is not, because the problem that's happening in Gaza and throughout the Middle Eastern world is this is a systemic problem inside the culture. As we were talking with Pastor Umar Melinde, who had acid thrown on his face and who was a da'i of Islam and who's now a Christian pastor, is that he goes, the on the ground inside of Gaza, they don't even teach that Israel has a right to exist at all. It's not even on the maps, and therefore it's a sustained, constant push. And yet, when the rockets aren't launching, nobody cares, and like everything's fine. That is the big danger of what I see with that type of mentality. Even it's good on one side, but it has a very dangerous double-edged sword on the other side.
I guess there's a yin and yang to everything. But I think generally people can't see how they can make a difference, maybe, other than living their life. They trust the IDF. They trust in the government. They're watching that Netanyahu is trying to take care of business, and they're trusting in it.
But Yang wants to kill you. But Yang wants to kill you.
Joe.
I have to tell you, I do believe that our enemies want to kill us, and that is a fact. And it's a fact that I am living with, I talk about, and I think people that I associate with also believe. We believe that our enemies, the Muslims want to kill us. The Islamic beliefs want to kill Jews. The Quran is filled with it. Hate Jews and what to do about hating Jews. And the only way to change that is to come from the Arab world. They have to look at their Quran. They have to understand that just by outlawing criticism of it makes it impossible to change. How do we get peace with people who just want us to be dead? So what do? You live your life to the fullest, and you work on ways of trying to stop them from killing you. And hopefully the rest of the world will understand maybe the Israeli people have a right to live, and the Jews around the world have a right to live.
But running into bomb shelters and building iron domes doesn't solve that problem. That's my point. The point being is that yes, they want to kill you, but running, just putting your hands behind your back and taking punches all day, is not going to solve the problem.
Forgive me, I don't think the Israeli people are doing that at all. They are tough. They are angry. They support their government. They want this to stop. They want Hamas to be destroyed, their capabilities to be destroyed, and the IDF and the government and the technology here are all working to do that. But how do you stop a people who are passing on from generation to generation a hatred of another people? How do you stop it? Do you have an answer?
Well,
You have to live your life. You have to live your life. Because if you don't live your life, then you're dead already. Now, the rest has to be handled by bigger forces around us, people that we're giving money to, that we're empowering to take care of us. And the Israeli people, I believe, are trusting in the government, trusting in the IDF to do that, and maybe also hoping that America is going to help, because Americans, we need to recognize that Israel is there fighting for us as well. And without understanding that, Israel is going to have to go it alone. So I'm here because I want you guys to spread the word, the positive word that Israelis here are defending freedom around the world, the right to be who you are, that you don't have to be a Muslim in order to exist and be accepted and to be allowed to live. So I'm a fighter, my husband's a fighter, and most of the Israelis here are fighters. So the premise that you're going into a bomb shelter, that's what you got to do. Okay? That's what you got to do. But you come out fighting hard again with a big spirit.
Yeah, and that is amazing, Jan Suzanne. Joe Sabag, who's the head of the ZOA, Zionist Organization of America, the Florida chapter. You got a comment or an observation, Joe?
Just a couple thoughts. I mean, first of all, the real question at this point is whether to invade Gaza or not to invade. And that is the question. When we talk about trying to dismantle terror to make sure that Israelis don't need to live with the threat of waking up, the next day and having more rockets fired in their direction. This is an issue that Israel needs to be free to decide for itself. If the Israeli people and if the Israeli government decide that they're sick and tired of having a terror outpost on their border and that they want to go in the best interest of their country, I mean, Israel's citizens have a right to live safe and normal lives. And you just can't do that when you have a terrorist entity on your border stockpiling and waiting for the next conflict. And so, what we need here in the United States is not just for the president and for other policymakers to come out and say, yes, we support Israel's right to defend itself. We need them to say that without qualification, without reservation whatsoever. And the problem is that we're hearing voices that are calling for a ceasefire or a proportionate use of force, okay, or some type of maximum restraint. And this really stops short of recognizing the fact that Israel, may decide to go well beyond non-invasive action. And we need to be fighting for, Israel, essentially to do absolutely what's necessary. And when we talk about how to put an end to this conflict, this was really the subject of the discussion that was held last night. I know that Congressman Louis Gohmert spoke about it as well. I refer to it as the doctrine of peace through strength. Other people, particularly within Zionist thought, refer to it as the iron wall. It's the idea that you are so strong and muscular that nobody wants to take you on. You remove your enemy's capacity and their will to fight, and thus, in reconciling themselves with that situation, they begin to normalize. They accept it, and they move on. And we really need to support the Israeli people and the Israeli government if it decides to escalate things to the point of trying to dismantle terror and establishing that level of deterrence. That's really what's at stake here. No reservations whatsoever.
I hear what you're saying, and I know that people are talking about where do we go from here? Where does Israel go from here? I hear so much success going on with the airstrikes right now. And when I've talked to people, I've gone out a little bit to talk with people, they want these airstrikes to continue. They don't want to have Israel stop short, at least on that level. There's fear about a ground invasion because there's just fear about it. It's a lot, and the weapon supplies of Israel diminish. Questions come up, where are we going to get more supply? Will the United States supply more? There's a lot of things, but the airstrikes have been so successful, so targeted, and relatively speaking, so few civilians being hurt that, I think that no matter what our administration says, that the Netanyahu has to continue at least on that level, and Israel cannot stop and listen to a complete ceasefire.
Yeah, Joe, we know you have to get going, but before you leave, Joe, what do you know the rules that guide the Hamas in Gaza as the elected representative, the government of the Palestinians regarding weapons? Are they allowed to have small arms? Are they allowed to have missiles? Are they allowed to have large Iranian rockets? I mean, what is it, or is all that stuff illegal?
I mean, illegal in what sense?
That's, I don't know.
It's not even a legitimate government. You have to understand it. Yeah, it's. I would just say it's not even a question of legality. Frankly, it's a terrorist organization that, in a violent, brutal coup, seized power from another questionably legitimate entity that had control over the area, and is now amassing these weapons for the purpose of trying to commit a genocide against the Jewish people. There's nothing legitimate to it. It's.
Well, then the follow-up, if they are a designated terrorist organization, the Hamas,
Yes.
as they are according to our State Department,
Yes.
And Russia and Canada and Austria, everybody.
then why doesn't the United States participate with Israel in a joint mission to de-arm terrorists that are killing people and sending rockets and things all over the place?
Because the United States is sending them humanitarian aid right now, even as they are firing upon Israel.
Yeah. So, look, so Israel provides them with water and electricity and food, and the United States is providing them with aid for all those other things that they need, medicines and clothes and so on, and we're making sure that they don't really have to spend their money on anything other than munitions. And that's the irony of it. U.S. law says very clearly that aid is not supposed to be making its way into the hands of Hamas.
Well,
Other than Al Qaeda in Libya, do we provide weapons and money for any other designated terrorists? Just Al Qaeda and Hamas now, or are there other terrorists that we're supporting?
Or maybe have a Muslim Brotherhood there.
Oh, the Brotherhood too. But they're not on the list yet.
And of course, listen, Hamas is moderate partners in terrorism over sitting in Ramallah.
What is the deal with Fatah? What is going on with them?
Listen, they agree on the end means. They just don't agree on how to get there. That's the bottom line. Hamas, for ideological reasons, says we want to defeat Israel in an outright conflict. And Fatah really says, well, we're happy to take Israel in pieces. We'll use a combination of diplomacy, diplomatic terror, and actual militant terror. And at some point, the Israeli people will give up their will to continue fighting, and then they'll just concede.
And plus which, they're hoping that Israel and the United States will take out the Hamas and obliterate them completely so that they themselves can move into that area.
Go back in there.
Because those guys don't get along either. When's the last time a boss who's supposed to be the head of the Palestinian Authority, actually had the guts to show his face in Gaza? It's not going to happen.
Well, how idiotic is this scenario here? Cuba's launching rockets at Miami and at Key West, and yet we're sending money to Fidel Castro to distribute to his people for humanitarian aid.
Right, because I'm sure that he's sending penicillin and fresh clothes to the citizens of Cuba.
And all the people in Key West all they do is just build bomb shelters and build iron defense systems. Yeah, no, we can't attack them. We can't go down there and attack them because why? Why?
Why? Because the world won't like us.
Oh, so piss on the world and just do what's right.
Well, I think there are a lot of people who, are arguing at this point that Israel, clearly can't win this international PR battle and simply needs to move on to doing what's right for its citizens and what's best for its own safety and security. I think there are a lot of Jewish people who would agree with that sentiment. They're going to.
I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Honestly, when push comes to shove, that's what Israel's going to have to make the decision on its own. I mean, I think when I talk to Israelis here, that's what they say.
A lot of the folks now who are calling for a ceasefire and who are really, trying to make sure that Hamas lives to fight another day, These are the same knuckleheads that are going to be sitting at the UN next week and
Yeah.
voting for a unilateral declaration, for essentially to give a victory to diplomatic terrorism, as opposed to rockets. Now they're going for UN resolutions and so on. That's the bottom line. Israel needs to do what's in its own best interest. I think that Land for Peace and this idea of a two-state solution, it has a century of bloodshed behind it. It is a thoroughly failed idea in every sense of the every sense of the word. It's time for Israel to really focus on its own needs and do what it must.
Thanks, Joe.
CJ?
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I just want to say, because Joe has to get back to work, but I wanted to say, Jan Suzanne, when we get back after saying goodbye to Joe, I'd like to ask you, what pressure are Israeli citizens putting on their government to actually end this threat once and for all? What's the pressure like from the ground to the government?
No, the
So
other
think
one's
about-
the
yeah,
other one's
think-
not the other one's not
Think
ready
about
yet.
that, and as we say goodbye to Joe.
Yeah, Tom, I'm just going to take a chance, a moment here before I leave, to talk about a few practical things that people can do. If they say, well, I support Israel, how do they turn that into something practical that they can actually go out and do? I mean, first of all, we're well aware that over here on our side of the water, that the media war and the battle of information and ideas is already broken out. We need people to be fact-checking. Where they see imbalanced and unfair presentations of what's taking place, they need to speak out. We're asking people to make the particular point that support for Israel is actually a matter of supporting America. We share many strategic interests with Israel. We share many freedoms. We share exceptional values. And so our support for Israel is actually one of the highest expressions of our Americanism. And we want people to make the point that this is an American issue, not just a Jewish issue.
Very important. Very, very important.
Very important.
100% true.
The second point that I want to make is that we want people to start contacting members of Congress and making certain that those congressmen feel the pressure to begin to remove U.S. taxpayer funding from entities, from UN entities, from NGOs that in any way delegitimize Israel and harm the interests of the United States. And this, of course, includes the Human Rights Council, UNESCO, UNRWA, and even the UN for that matter. If it decides to go ahead and pursue a unilateral declaration next week, we don't need to be funding this nonsense with our tax dollars. The third thing that folks can do is to really go out and make it a matter of principle to buy a few extra Israeli products at this point. The situation does always have a negative effect on commerce. And in particular, we also know that this situation has led to an uptick in folks who are calling for boycotts. And so we like to boycott is the expression, to go out and, as a matter of principle, buy a few extra Israeli products. Donate them to the local food bank. Make a nice charitable gesture out of it. But the point is that when we go ahead and increase the sales of Israeli products at a time like this, it really helps to frustrate the efforts of our opponents. I want to also mention that folks need to be educated if they're going to go out, if they're going to stand up. If they want to take these issues on and speak out publicly, they need to be educated. A very simple resource that's available for everybody, really a primer. It's the Myths and Facts Guide. It's by Mitchell Bard.
Myths or myths?
Myths and Facts Guide.
Okay.
Let me articulate a little better. The Myths and Facts Guide. Fabulous book. Offers, essentially just very concise answers to the majority of lies and slanders that a person will encounter. It's available online at mythsandfacts.org. There's a handy little link on the left side of the page that says The Conflict. If you click it there, you can look at everything. It's available for free online. I mean, this is absolutely the first go-to resource for anybody who wants to discuss Israel or engage in public debate. The last thing I want to say is make sure to support institutions right now that are out there advocating on behalf of Israel. I mean, radio shows like this, and the discourse that we're having now, the sharing of information, trying to motivate people who are concerned, giving them practical ways to get involved, opportunities to get educated. This is a vital time to be supporting this radio show, to be supporting organizations like the ZOA and others that have put down all other aspects of their work in order to really treat this as the very important crisis that it is. It's a time for us to be rallying around the flag, and we need to support those who have made this a priority. So I think that those are a few really good suggestions that folks can do. Again, just to recap. Submit op-eds, watch the media, pressure Congress to go ahead and cut off funding to institutions that harm American interests, buy Israeli products, become educated, go to mythsandfacts.org, and support pro-Israel organizations. Support the Trento Radio Show.
How do they get in touch with you, Joe?
I'm easy to reach. I'm at my email address is florida@zoa.org. Got to spell the whole word out, FLORIDA. At ZOA.org.
Florida@ZOA.org. Hey, let's give Joe a hand for his great work, what he's doing.
Thanks, Joe.
Stay right there for 1 second. Let's bring up Jan Suzanne. And you got 30 seconds, Jan Suzanne, to say goodbye. We're going to let you go. We got to move into our next segment. And what would you like to leave the folks here in America with?
That the Israeli people that I have met find it so important to know that Americans are behind them. Every time I meet a new Israeli, and my husband and I tell them what we've done, they're overwhelmed. They're absolutely overwhelmed at what we are here supporting them. That is what is needed. They hear mostly these negative rallies that are so put together by anti-Israeli forces. They're put together overnight. Thousands come out, but when the activists, the Jewish activists and the Christian activists come out to try to bring rallies together, it takes long and it doesn't come on the TVs. Right. So all I can say is please let Israelis know how much you support them in any way that you can. This gives them hope because America is so important to Israelis here, and knowing that they are supported and that they believe they're doing what's right for America as well as Israel. So that's what I have to say.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Jan Suzanne. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come visit with us today. You're a real inspiration to the conservative activists for Israel here in Florida. Is there any? Are you interested in having any of us get in touch with you in Israel? Do you want to give us an email address or a website for us to go to?
Sure. My name, Jan Suzanne, JANSUZANNE, the number 1, at gmail.com.
At gmail.com?
Right, JanSuzanne1 at gmail.com.
Okay,
I welcome your words.
Okay, because I also happen to know some friends of mine who are interested at this point in time in making Aliyah, and maybe you would be a good resource and a help and encouragement for them to pursue that.
Well, anybody who wants to come to Israel, all the Israelis and all the immigrants of it and expatriates would be happy to have them.
All right.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thanks for
Take
what you're
care of
doing.
yourself and keep in touch, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Jan Suzanne from Tel Aviv, just been there 2 weeks. That's
Holy
amazing.
cow.
This has been a very interesting. We got to get Tanny on now. Her computer went down, so she was not available all that time. She is available now, and she's listening to us. Hi, Tanny, and we're gonna bring her up, Skype her. Tani is CJ. I don't think you've met her yet. You haven't. When we were in Israel. Tani is a Christian woman who runs an interesting operation bringing tours over,
Right.
but spends most of her time there. I mean, she really just has one of these Christians with a gigantic heart for Israel.
So she's from here?
She's from the Pacific,
Somewhere in the United States?
Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And we'll see how much she wants to tell
Not
about
from
that.
Seattle, is she?
I don't know. We'll see. But we're going to get her on the
I'll
air.
have to ask her what exit.
And this has been very interesting. And, you folks out there listening, 888-565-1470. If you have any questions for us or the folks that are calling in. And I want to raise the question in the next segment. We're focusing on the Israel situation. And the missiles are coming flying, and it's disrupting 3.5 million people now. But you have the IDF dropping 500-pound bombs, devastating buildings, and just collapsing half of the Hamas infrastructure. Who's standing up for the Palestinians? I mean, they're human beings. Why shouldn't we be basically saying, hey, why shouldn't we take their side? Who's right in this battle? You weigh in. 888-565-1470. Is Israel the big, strong bully on the block, or is it the little tiny country surrounded by a bunch of Muslims that want to kill them?
Well, do we have a minute or two
Yeah,
while
yeah,
we're waiting?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because
We
we
should-
have. Do we have it? Hey Blake, do we have Ariel on the line? Nope. How about Lawrence? Okay, we got Lawrence on the line. Wanted to speak.
All right, let me bring.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Lawrence. It's
here.
Tom and everybody else. How are you today?
Lawrence, can you hear us?
Yeah, I sure can.
Hi.
Sure can. Appreciate the call.
Sure.
Tom, you're doing a great job. You and your organization doing a great job. But shame on you. I'm saying shame on you because I think you're still applying Western logic to a non-Western situation. When was the last time you didn't pay your water or electric bill for about 6 months and the utility company did not cut off your utilities? Israel is in that situation. The Gaza people owe hundreds and hundreds of thousands, millions of shekels in utility bills, and they're still receiving utilities. What a perfect opportunity to cut off the power, cut off the water, cut off the electricity right now.
Well, that's an interesting point he brings up because we remember when we went down to Gaza, and we're standing right across the border, and we're on the other side, and we look on there, and there's power lines coming in from Israel over there, and there's a big retention pond full of water right there on the Israeli side pumping into Gaza. And it's amazing. All right, if you're having problems, cut them off. I mean, if they're going to act like a rogue state, act like terrorists, don't give them water and electricity.
Well,
I agree with you
also,
100% on
if
that.
they're so determined to have statehood
And it's going for the camera.
and independence, they should also start providing for their own infrastructure.
All right, let's.
What a
Well, that would
great
make them
opportunity
responsible
for
citizens.
Hang on, I gotta be the maestro orchestrating this thing.
Okay.
Lawrence, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you could hang on, we have several people that want to jump in on the conversation, but I want to bring Tanny in first on Skype. Tanny, are you there? Hello, it's Tom and everybody else in here, Mark, Mike, and CJ.
Hi, Tom. It's really nice to see you guys. Sorry about that a little bit earlier, but as you said, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and today we have a really good rainstorm going on, so it affected my Wi-Fi, all that good stuff.
Okay, well, let's do this. We only have a couple of minutes in this segment. I want you to introduce yourself and establish your creds on
My friend.
your creds on Israel. Then we're gonna have to take a break, and then I promise we'll get to all the people on the calls. You'll take calls, won't you, Tani?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I will.
Take a minute or so. Tell us about yourself.
A minute. Okay, well, I'm Tani Israeli, and yes, I do live in the Pacific Northwest. I travel to Israel quite frequently, bringing tours. Sometimes they're larger tours, and sometimes they're private tours, trying to educate Americans about what Israel's really like, from past, present to future. But I also do a lot of writing, more advocacy work for Israel, trying to tell Israel's story, not just about the conflicts, but really about what everyday life is like. Tom, the way I got started was really kind of one of those, it's a story that you don't even know really how.
Well, why don't you hold that?
911.
Yeah, why don't you hold that because
Okay.
we got to go to a break, and it'll be 5 minutes or so, and you'll hear the news. We'll be back, and we'll bring all the callers in,
Yeah.
and then we have somebody, Tani. I don't know if you know Barry Shaw from Israel. Do you know him?
He is familiar. We haven't met face to face yet.
Well, we're going to Skype him in after you. So,
Okay.
So we'll have a wonderful time here. We're going to do this for a couple of days. But exactly what your objective is, educating America, particularly at this critical time of war right now. So, Tani Zarelli, you hang on. All the callers hang on. This is Tom
Robin
Trento.
and Bob, if you could hang on until the beginning of the hour.
Yeah, we'll be with you. Just listen to whatever's taking place, and we'll see you just in a little bit.
Here's some great news from Tom Trento, host of the daily WNN Trento Vision Show. Due to the unparalleled success of the Trento Vision Show, you now have an amazing opportunity to advertise on the Trento Vision Show. If you want more information about this excellent opportunity for your business, please contact Tom Trento at 560